Hello. Greetings and salutations, grasshoppers. This is RJ Redden, and entrepreneurs hire me to burn down marketing methods that no longer work for them because most have a problem getting traction online. Some can't get traction online to save their lives. So I create messaging that creates relationships and builds those relationships and closes deals. So, my darlings, you know, our usual topic is the messenger bots. Bots, beep, boop, bots. But today, we're going to veer to the left just a little bit because even though I spend my day steeping in creating awesome client experiences through messenger bots, I know that you probably aren't spending your entire day on that. I know that you have many missions and you wear many hats. And sometimes I like to invite my friends on here to talk a little bit about what they have some expertise in. Today, I have a special friend. Met her on the marketing cruise. Met her on, what is that thing called, Matilda? The Pizza and Profits.
Oh, Pizza and Profits?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is an incredibly crazy ritual that goes on the Marketers Cruise every year. And it is this. People gather on one of the main deck outside the pizza place because the pizza place goes all night, apparently. Those people are crazy. And they gather in little groups and then they little hip hop between the groups and people mingle and exchange information. And it's so fantastic. I met Matilda at Pizza and Profits. We closed it down because we got too excited. And we started talking about bots and we started talking about time management, and it was insane. So I thought that I would bring her on, introduce her to all of you, and now it's time for me to stop talking. Matilda, what is it that you do?
Hey, RJ, good to see you. Hello to your tribe. Yeah, Pizza and Profits was crazy. It starts at like 11 at night and goes on until you can manage to stay awake. So I think we were up until like, I don't know, 3, 4 o'clock.
It was insane.
I know, bots are fascinating. No, we had a good time. We got along great. And I can't wait to go back and do it all again next year.
Yeah.
But as far as what do, I do many things. Primarily, I would call myself a system strategist, which is kind of an official title. But my fun title is I'm the time ninja, because I help people basically manage their time effectively. So essentially, savvy entrepreneurs hire me to sharpen their focus and efficiently complete their major goals, because most are multitasking, or they have a laundry list instead of a curated action list, and they tell themselves that they don't have enough time. So I teach them how to effectively define their priorities and help them create a work structure that meshes with their personality and their work style. And they realize that they can effectively move their goals forward and get things done. And you always have time to do the things that are most important to you.
Well, yes. And I think that, you know, I get off track a lot too. You know, I think that we all do.
Oh, yeah.
When we take some time out to define those priorities and go, okay, that's it, tunnel vision, baby. I have a little bit more luck there, but I think that part of the pull of being an entrepreneur is that I can do whatever I want today.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, part of the coolness is I don't have somebody over my shoulder going, through the TPS reports, you know, and I'm used to every day, trust me.
That is so true. That is so true. And that's the major pro and the major con, I think, to entrepreneurship is you do get to decide what you're going to do. And if you're one of those people who likes to go in many different directions, then it's going to take you longer to get traction and figure out, what your focus is going to be. So there are, some tips and tricks I've learned through the years that I share with my clients and try to keep them on track. But I think really the fundamental starting place is define what is truly important to you, the people who are important to you, and like, what is it that you want to get done this year?
Perfect. Yeah, and that's one of those things that I think that marketing, the great big world of marketing to other small business owners is just, there's so many things that people are begging for your attention from. And you're right. It absolutely takes us away from that central driving focus of what did I already define that I wanted. But a lot of times I feel it's almost a trade-off. It presents to me as, here's an opportunity. This opportunity might pay off better than this predefined opportunity. And then a struggle takes place. You look like you may understand what I'm talking about. Matilda, please educate us a little bit.
There's always going to be that struggle between, am I missing out on something by focusing on this path that I've set for myself? And do I stay on this path, or do I allow myself to, go off on this tangent? And one of the things I've developed that I teach my clients is this, what I call prioritization without regret. And you go through this systematic set of questions of, essentially, is this really, this new thing we can call a distraction, is this really going to move you forward if you pivot and go in that direction, or is it going to totally pull you off course? Yeah. And it's interesting because when you're on a particular path and you have a focus, technically anything that's not in line with that can be called a distraction, right? So, shutting all distractions out is not always a good thing, because sometimes what is kind of masquerading as a distraction could actually be the opportunity that you're looking for. So, well, then what do? Do you pay attention to, or do you not? So like I said earlier, I think the first piece is to decide what is truly important to you this year, and to realize that if you're going to go off on this tangent, it's not just you going off on this tangent, but everyone who's in your immediate circle, all your other projects, everything that is in your life is going on this tangent with you. It's not like you're alone and the rest of the stuff is like moving along the way you intended. It's like it's all coming with you. So I think the thing that we have to try to focus on is, when you look at this distraction or that comes on your radar, is spend a little bit of time evaluating, is this truly in line, and will it help me tremendously move forward, or is it really just squirrel and should be left alone? But don't invest like a ton of time into, should I or shouldn't I?
Well, and yeah, that's a great little qualifier. One of my coaches and I, Coach Jenny, and I used to have the opportunity scorecard, which is, which kind of was helpful in how closely does this align with what I already want. And sometimes, we get great big opportunities to do crazy things we would never have thought of, but they're in line with what we want. And then there are times that something really cool comes along, and boy, I could spend my time on that. Yeah. But it's, in terms of return on investment, it's not what I need right now.
Yeah.
So it's like almost a daily job, Matilda.
It can be. It depends on how many distractions are coming at you any given point.
I just squirreled.
Daily, could be hourly, could be, it depends. Usually when we're under deadline, we tend to ignore more stuff. But yeah, sure. I mean, sometimes, and sometimes you follow one of those tangents with the, really the best intention, and it turns out to be, shouldn't have done that, but I got experience now.
Well, it's always a risk, right?
Yeah.
It's always a risk. Terry had to leave us. She's going to watch the replay though. Terry, hey, good to see you. So that's and that's why they call it time management. It's not, time finished. Time completed now. You can go rest.
Yeah, it never completes. And time management is what people are accustomed to hearing, but it's not so much managing time, which you really can't. It's manage your expectations, your energy, and your focus. But people don't necessarily want to deal with managing themselves. So time management's like, oh yes, I want to learn this. I'm like, yeah, part of it is you can't have everything right now, nor would you want to.
Right.
Nor would you want to, because if you're anything like me, you don't want to live your life by checklists. Like, I've checked off 40 things that I did today. I want to check off maybe 3 things that I did today, and I enjoyed it. And not just, like a gerbil on a wheel, like how many have I done? That really doesn't speak to the quality of the life that you create for yourself.
No.
So
Teresa is commenting, hello. Had to step away from coaching as a whole so that I could refocus. So that's an interesting question. So it's not really about time management. It's about self-management. Mm-hmm. we had talked about this. I did productivity coaching a while back before I just, decided to put it all into bots, baby. So it's a tough thing when you're learning how to manage yourself. Most of us don't talk to ourselves very well.
No.
You run into that at all?
Sure. When I work with clients and, we go through and create processes in their business to make them more efficient, there's it's this way because, it just is. I'm like, so who's in charge here? Oh, well, it kind of sounds like your staff is in charge when you should be in charge. Well, that's the way we've always done it. I'm like, some of that may need to reflect, internally on how are you managing people, or how are you reinforcing the rules that you're trying to set up, or how are you holding people accountable? Are you holding yourself accountable? So there are times in those engagements where, the clients who are usually the CEO or the COO of the organization, like, oh, I get it. Okay. So I got to change something. I'm like, only if you want different results.
Exactly. I mean, you don't have to change anything at all, no. But yeah.
If you want to go reach the stuff you told me about, initially, then here's some suggestions on how to do that. And then they're like, oh. And sometimes it just, it's some of the stuff is like they've heard it before. And they're like, okay, I intellectually know this, but either it's coming at a different point in their life, or I'm using slightly different verbiage than they've heard before. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I get it now. I'm like, okay, good. So how do you want to implement this? What do you want to do about this? So yeah, it's always, it's fun to watch clients kind of go, oh, I got to work on myself as much as I've got to set up, processes for everyone else. I'm like, now we're getting it.
Exactly.
But it's cool because then they get excited. It's like, oh, I see that, if I make these changes, like, everyone else can be more productive because I'll be more supportive or organized, or, whatever the case is. And then they just light up and go, oh, let's do more of this stuff. Okay.
It does open up a whole new world, though, because when we're in a spot where, we're distracted a lot, so we go try this new shiny, and then there's more new shinies. And I'm particularly guilty sometimes because I see a new chatbot platform.
Mm-hmm.
I am constantly on the lookout to either supplement or replace ManyChat if there's something better out there. I want to try. I want to try all the things. I want to, I want to get in there and then half the day's gone.
Sure.
And I've not made progress on my real priorities. So is there something that you suggest to people when they've connected with those real priorities? In what way do you have any suggestions on how to reconnect with that stuff on a regular basis?
Well, one of the exercises I take people through is after they visually map out their priorities, and we go through this exercise that initially they think is painful, and then they get really relieved. It's like, write down everything that's in your head, because short-term memory is not where your task list belongs. It belongs written down, so your short-term memory can really help you with the creativity of how to solve these problems. It's not meant to keep track of 100 different to-dos that you need to do. So from there, we then map out, it's like a strategic plan broken out by quarter of how do you need to address all of these goals that you have for the year.
Yeah.
And if it's a multi-layered goal, and then there's probably a little bit you need to do in the first quarter, and then the stuff you do in the second quarter builds on that, and then third and fourth. And when you visually separate out what you need to focus on in any given month, you've already captured everything else that at this point you need to do, because new stuff always comes at you, right?
Right.
So then you don't need to worry about it. It's captured. You don't have to expend mental energy holding on to it. And you can just focus on what you're doing this month.
Right.
And put stuff in your calendar. So, yeah, I totally hear you with like diving into new software, like, oh, let's go. Let's play. But, sometimes you've got to go, this is not the highest ROI I can do today.
Right.
And maybe you need to look at, okay, I'm going to do this like 2 or 3 hours a week on certain days, and not, oh, it's new. It's like, I know it, it's fun, but we got to pay the bills today. So we got to do some other stuff.
Well, and self-discipline is not my strength. I mean, it's just not. I'm a creative person. I love to, be visual and create things. And so yeah. All right, everybody out there. What's your experience with new and shiny? Do you have questions? Because Matilda's an expert and she knows all of the things, darlings. And I would love for you guys to have some access to her brain, because I know it can be hard out there. It's hard. It's hard in here sometimes. Because
it's hard over here sometimes too. So, don't get me wrong. It's not like, oh, I've got all this figured out. I mean, there are times when, you have your distraction of choice, which could be TV or iPhone game or, whatever, shopping. But you have to have enough, I think, self-awareness to go, okay, I'm actually procrastinating and putting off this thing that I know I need to do. So come on, let's get with it and get it done. But yeah, I mean, I've got my distractions too.
Yeah. I think that we all do. Stacey Spenceley says, shiny, which I totally relate with. Teresa says, new and shiny used to get me every time. That's why I needed to focus and pick the things that actually moved me in my chosen direction. And that's the thing, is that, I read a study a while back, and it was talking about how human beings are we are wired to be averse to letting a door close. Even if we know that door closing is not going to help us in any way. You nod as if you know what I'm talking about there, Matilda.
Yeah, fear of missing out. It's like, but the minute it closes, something cool is going to happen behind that door, and I want to be part of it. I know. Yeah, but sometimes you just got to go, sometimes I think you just need to sit back and say, okay, this is my pattern. This is how I do things, whether it's you put stuff off or you're hyper organized or you're somewhere in between. And I think you kind of need to just kind of get quiet and settled and go, now, if 5 years from now I'm still doing this, am I going to reach these goals that I say are important to me? And then you listen to your gut at that point. You kind of get what I would call an intuitive hit of, no, you know very well you're procrastinating and something has to change, or your intuitive hit is, yeah, I'm good. I'm on track. So part of that is, and if you're someone who really hasn't spent any time like tuning in, you may not get a hit initially. That's okay. Just, revisit it in a couple of days and try it again. Say, am I really doing everything I need to be doing to get to these goals that I said were important to me?
Yeah.
And, try to look at it that way as well, because, we all procrastinate to some degree, but I think the more self-aware you get of how you natively operate, you can be that much more effective and powerful in reaching what you decide are your goals, not what other people have picked out for you or encourage you towards, but the stuff that you really want to do. So yeah. I think investing in that is really, it's probably one of the most powerful investments I think you can make.
It certainly is. That arrange, the freedom of, oh, I could do whatever I want right now. It gets replaced by the freedom of, who do I really want to be when I grow up? Now, I'm never going to grow up. You know this. I will get older. That's a cabbage in my head. But I'm never growing up. That's mine. That's my thing. But yeah, who do I want to be in 5 years? Is this going to take me there? That is a great question to be able to get things into perspective and make some decisions on what to include. Gosh, I just know, when I've been a biz owner for a while, and I know that the tendency is to say yes to everything, include everything, and work until you fall asleep on your desk, and then wake up again and do it again. But that's not a model that can be followed
not for long, yeah. And not effectively. No.
Want to say hi to Liesl? Hey, how you doing in Sweden? Good to see you. Teresa says, makes total sense. That very feeling prevented me from letting go of a coach who was great but wasn't moving me toward my vision. It was their interpretation of my vision. Yeah, that can happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is surround yourself with people who, in some ways, either business-wise or spiritually, are a little more advanced than you are. And, either get into a mentoring group or get into a community like yours where you've got like-minded people and you all support each other. So, it doesn't feel quite as lonely if you're doing the work from home and there's nobody around and no one to bounce ideas off of, because that can definitely make it worse and sometimes encourage more procrastination, even though you theoretically can do whatever you want.
Theoretically. Absolutely. That's a wonderful thing. So, what is something what's an easy exercise that we can pass to the viewers today, to the audience, that will help them kind of sort out, what's the best stuff to spend time on, or is it just setting those priorities in the first place? Or how would you encourage my audience members, my peeps, to start on a path of getting closer toward their goals?
Right. So, I mean, there's so many different ways we could start. I think I'd like to start with email, because people tend to drown in the amount of email that they get. RJ, sound familiar?
Oh, God.
So I have what I consider a bit of an unorthodox strategy when it comes to email, and that is I have multiple emails. Now, before people go, oh my God, she's insane, I can't handle one, why do I need more than one? To me, if I see all different kinds of topics in one inbox, it completely overwhelms me, because some of the stuff doesn't really need your attention, right? So I separate out my emails. I've got my personal email that goes to family, friends, kids' activities, kids' schools, doctors, my activities. That's it. So when I open that email, I know that's the only stuff I'm going to see on there. Yeah. No newsletters, nothing, none of that. Then I have a second personal email that is only for newsletters and signups and stuff like that. And that's the only thing I use that for. So that one, if I don't open that for several weeks and the, unopens build up, I don't really care, because there's nothing urgent in there. And it already does like the first level separation for me, right? Third email is a business email, prospects, clients, vendors. That's it. And then the fourth email is any kind of professional group or network that I, want to get emails from, and that's separate. So that's kind of the equivalent of the personal email, personal newsletter email. So that's it. So mainly I'm in my work email or my personal email, and the two don't cross. And that's, to me, that's like the first level of organization. It's like, an analogy I like, it's like you go into a grocery store, right? And, we've all done this, and it's all something that we're familiar with. But you go into the grocery store and you don't find a huge pile on the floor. It's like, okay, go find what you need. It's, there's the produce section, and within the produce section, you've got, stacks of vegetables that aren't the same. And then you go to the canned food or meats or dairy or whatever, and it's all organized. So the organization is around us. We just don't really focus on it. It's something that we just kind of, it's just kind of there. And when you start organizing, like within your hard drive, if you're opening folders, or within email, if you're, creating folders or lists or labels or stuff like that, you're just introducing the same kind of organization that you see around you, like on a daily basis. So that first level of organization is the 4 emails. It's like 4 different aisles. When I'm in the work aisle, those are the only emails I want to see. And that helps me focus. And then I'm not weeding through and going, oh, well, this was a newsletter. I can ignore this and ignore this and ignore that. That, to me, that just takes too much energy to have to weed through, and too much focus on, is it important? Is it not? So I open the work email, I know all of it is important, and I can just focus on that. Yeah. So that would be like the first level organization.
Email.
Yeah.
That's a big monster to tackle and wrestle down. That's a good one though, because if there's anything that's ever present in our lives, if there's anything that could deserve an uncluttering, it's email. It's just that thing is
Yeah.
ridiculous. Lisa also has different emails like that, and she's stating doing some things right there. Obviously,
I do some things. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. So on the topic of email, the other thing that I like to do is, so I use Gmail. So if you use Outlook or Apple Mail, I mean, the words are slightly different, but like the concepts are going to be the same. So as an email is coming in, you can create labels. So you think of label as like a Post-it note that you write out and say, okay, this is, client number 1, or this is client number 2, or this is a vendor. And then you create email rules. So what the email rules do is, when I get an email from, myfavoritevendor.com, then apply this label. So it does it for you automatically. And then in Gmail, it organizes you. It doesn't have folders like Outlook does, but this way you can just click on a label and go, okay, I'm only going to see the stuff that's related to this, my favorite vendor, right? Or my favorite client, or whatever you have there. So that kind of automated organization I find is really helpful. It's easier to find stuff, and you don't have to go through and like manually pick everything out and go, okay, I need to label this. It's like, just let the technology do it.
right.
That's what it's there for.
Well, and one of the things that you've said a couple of times, implied heavily anyway. What I'm hearing is that if you go places with intent and you do things with intent, then that's a lot better and helps you feel more effective than I gotta check what's new. I gotta answer the notification, and there's a red circle with a white number in it, and I have to know what that says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intent. I would say, yeah, that's a good way of describing it.
That's my thing. When I either start having, when I'm getting overwhelmed and when I don't have a lot of time, that's what gets me the most is I got to keep up on everything. That one overriding principle of things are coming in so fast. I got to just keep up with everything for a while. And I know that this isn't really great for me, or moves me forward, but I'm going to do it just right now because it feels like everything is out of control. I think that that's, kind of a way that people want to try to anyway, exert some control over the, at least I'm caught up on the notifications. I'm not caught up on anything else.
Yeah. Just that action makes you feel like you've done something because you've taken some action. Sometimes when, stuff comes at you really quickly, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just step back and go, wait a minute. If I just breathe for a minute, nothing's going to fall apart. The world isn't going to tip off its axis. Everything's going to be fine. What is the most important thing that I really need to get done? Instead of being conditioned, because we have a Pavlovian response to email, to our phones beeping, to, oh my God, I got a text. Oh my God. It's like, there's nothing on there that can't wait another 30 seconds or 30 hours sometimes, right? So just stepping back and going, wait a minute. And then you look out in nature, it's like, are most animals in constant crisis? No. When they're being hunted, yes. But for the most part, no. But we create this kind of crisis for ourselves because we feel like we have to check email and be up on that. But here's kind of the brutal truth. 5 minutes from now, you won't be caught up anymore because there'll be more email.
Well, there's always more email.
There's always more email. So it's okay if it doesn't get done.
That's an interesting one because I think that I once read something that said that the reason why people, one of the reasons anyway, why people check email and notifications and everything else incessantly is because it's like a slot machine.
Mhm.
It's like I'm gonna pull that lever down and I might find out I got paid unexpectedly. Or I might find out that I've got another contract come in, or I might find out that I'm going to be speaking at this place or doing this thing or whatever it is, right?
Right.
That's, that kind of gamble, that casino mentality, I guess. It just, I know what's happening and it still has the power to keep me scanning, Messenger, Slack, email, chat, Skype, the 5, right? My favorite 5.
Have you tried turning them off?
I do. It's I there are times that what I'll do is I'll just do a 25-minute work time and just focus on that. And that's when I'll turn everything off because it'll live 25 minutes. You know what I mean?
It will.
Like, I'll look at my calendar and I'll go, okay, no appointments this afternoon. Time to focus. And so focus times, I will just shut everything off. And I do feel like I make more progress.
Okay.
But as for leaving it off for a day,
for a day, no, I would probably kind of go into withdrawal.
I know. Well, and the messenger is the one that really gets me because that's I can't not have it open because I have to, when I'm writing these bots and stuff, I need to test them.
It's like, that's your job.
And since I'm there all the time, everybody knows that I'm there all the time.
I know. Then they write to you. Listen, I got to go plug this in because the outlet I was plugged into is not charging the computer. And the computer's telling me it's going to die in a second. Die.
Yeah. Take care of business.
Yeah.
So we are doing a little veer sideways today into productivity, time management type stuff because as small business owners, darlings, we all face this all the time, including me. And I like to bring other experts in to give us some love and some other directions, because unfortunately, the entire day is not made of bots. I mean, mine is. So we all plugged in, Matilda?
We are. Where computer's not going to die now.
Fantastic. Great. Looking at the comments here. Stacy and Gail, you guys are awesome. I'm so glad that you're here and that you miss each other's faces. Perhaps a nice Zoom in the near future. Please include me. Okay, fantastic. So that's another thing to think about, another thing that you can do. What I really like is that bite-sized information that you can change your day with. Because if I can change today, if I can form a habit, then I can change an outcome. And maybe I can change my life if I do it long enough. So I'm loving these little tips, little things that you can do.
So I have another one for you.
Tell me.
Another one. And we go through this in the course I have. This is some of the prioritization that we go through. So this whole matrix of how do you compare different things. And there's one section where I say, well, okay, if you're comparing these two things that are really not all that urgent, ask yourself if you want to do it. Because you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to go, not for me, not now, maybe not ever, but no, thank you. I, can't participate this time, or no, that's just, I can't do it that week or whatever. You don't have to accept every invitation you get.
It is hard. This last week, I ended up turning down some things that I had done last year, just because one of them is just completely It's much more hobby oriented than anything else, and it would really take time away from things that I really love doing. And it's kind of, there's some manual labor in it too. So me and manual labor, I don't think so.
Not so much.
Had to turn something down that I had done last year, and had to turn another thing down as well. And it was like, but I feel like I need to, if I keep staying here, I'm going to keep staying here. I'm not going to move forward. And so if I can cut some things that aren't working for me, or used to work well, but now it doesn't fit what I want to do, that's the only way I'm going to move forward sometimes. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, as I take my clients through this exercise of like, what are all these, hundreds of things in your head, and let's trim it down to the stuff that actually gets done. Because I think one of the stats I share with them, that a little over 40% of things on a to-do list never get done. So if you've got this huge laundry list that's a couple of pages long, honestly, you're probably not going to do half of it. So just get it out of your life to begin with. And then what ends up developing, or what I encourage them to look for, is then themes for the year, right? So have like one or two professional themes, and then one or two personal themes, right? So for example, professional theme could be, I want to increase my company's revenues this year by 25%. So that's a smart goal, because it's specific. You can measure it. It's time-based. You're able to do it. And there are a lot of little projects that go under this umbrella. So depending on what your business is, you could hire a salesperson, or you can start doing video blogs and getting subscribers and offering them programs and classes. So there's so many different ways you can grow your business. And that all goes under this umbrella of, I want to do it by 25% this calendar year, right? So that would be one example. And then you go through your list and go, okay, what are all these activities that I have had in my head? Which ones are going to help me reach this goal this year, right? And then the personal theme could be something that is like multiple years long. Let's say you decide you love yoga and you want to be a certified yoga teacher, which could take, I don't know how many hundreds of hours of training. Well, you make time for it a little bit every month, and you keep it on your list, and eventually you're going to get there, right? Well, then next year, after, let's say you've reached your business goal this year of, I want to increase by 25%, and then you look at it and you look how the business is developing, and maybe for the following year is, I want to hire like the equivalent of an assistant manager and train that person up, so I'm not always the one that people are coming to, or someone else can do customer service or client service or service delivery while I go on vacation. So I think you need to look at every year, like, what is the focus based on what you want to do, and where your business is, and like how do you want to structure your life? It's like you get to make all of these choices. It's not just, oh, you have to do this. It's like, no, I get to do this. I get to decide where I'm spending my time.
Yeah.
So
you get to design your own life and your forward direction, but it feels like we don't get to design that and follow every squirrel into every hole. You know what I mean? It's like one or the other. It's like either I can spend my day chasing squirrels, or I can spend my day being about what I want to do.
Well, what's more important?
Right. Yeah, and staying connected with that, I have such a problem with sometimes,
Yeah, well, sometimes you're like, I'm fed up with everything, and I just want to chase the damn squirrels for today.
And some days,
it's like,
no mistake. There's so much squirrel chasing in this room sometimes. Yeah, just know that happens. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, some of that is accountability. So having an accountability mentor or accountability buddies who are in your circle of influence, or your peers who probably need accountability on some things as well. So, you can, help each other out with that. Cage the squirrels. I saw that.
That's for Lindsay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, and there were a while ago, a couple of years ago, had a coach who, recommended accountability buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And that has worked, several times. But people change. People work toward different goals, and then things shift, and all of a sudden it doesn't fit anymore, and you gotta
Mm-hmm.
find somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
that's the thing. I met a lady, this was maybe 4 weeks ago, but I met a lady who does 5-minute accountability phone calls for a living. She calls each of her clients for 5 minutes a day and is their favorite cheerleader, and then hangs up the phone. And the reason that she created this business was because she was finding that accountability buddies often become friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then that 10-minute conversation every morning turns into 15 minutes, turns into 20 minutes, and then a half an hour. And then
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a half hour to spend on this. I'm going to skip this call today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was fascinating. I was like, oh my God, that does happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you share a lot of stuff, I met someone at a conference almost 5 years ago, and we became accountability buddies and actually talked every week, I think, for like the first 3 years. But then you get to the point where it's like, you've got that friendly ear that you can call on when you need to talk to someone. But depending on what they're working towards and what you're working towards, each of you not have the necessary skills to help your buddy get to where they want to go.
Yeah, that's true.
So you need to seek out some other people. But it's like this person ends up knowing you rather well and can very quickly get into, okay, so what's going on with you? I'm like, why? It looks like you're doing this, this, and that. And you're like, yep, guilty.
Guilty. Yeah. Well, and I just recently going to sign the paper, so to speak, on another coaching relationship. So it's really going to be helpful for me as well to just know that there's someone that's paying attention. And I recently actually got an online business manager, Holly Upshaw. She's going to be on the show in a couple weeks here, and she also pays attention to the to-do list. So I don't like having anybody over my shoulder, but I do like to feel like somebody's in my corner. And that's kind of a big deal. So I know you teach a class, Ultimate Time Mastery. So talk to me about what happens in that course.
So in that, we start with a visual mapping of what is important to you. And in the center of this visual map is a little heart. And I tell them, like, your name goes in the middle. I'm like, and it's not like the world revolves around you and we're going to get all narcissistic, but these things that are important to you depend on you. So in a way, you are at the center of it. And then on the two outsides of the heart is health and self-care, which is something that I really learned several years ago. Self-care is essential, and it's not you can just shove it aside and not do it, because that's the fast track to burning out when you don't take care of yourself. So whatever self-care means to you, whether it's go to the movies or hang out or shopping or meditation or whatever it is that makes you feel calm and relaxed and focused is something that you need to engage in regularly. And so from there, we map out like who are the people who are most important and central in your life. And then we go to activities that are essential. So, you know, work, your major hobbies, close friends, that kind of thing. And then as we go out further out in this diagram, you have those events that are kind of like the one-off request, like someone you just meet. It's like, oh, can we get together for coffee? I want to pick your brain for an hour. It's like, maybe not. It's one of those, that's when you ask yourself, like, do I want to do this? You go, no. So from there, we go into email and how to really handle that avalanche. And I do that early in the class because the rest of the course just really builds. One week builds onto the previous week. And this way, the students in the class can get some early wins in, because I know everyone has an email inbox that is bursting at the seams. So there's some tips that, you know, we go through on that. And then we get into tasks and how do you, like, what's all the stuff that you keep in your head that we need to get out of your head. So then that goes into the next few weeks of, there's a whole structure that we go through of how I want you to write that out and trim it down and go through a priority matrix of, now that you know what's important to you, here's how to use this matrix to decide when I've got two competing events going on at the same time, or if they kind of overlap, like how do you decide between the two?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I can't decide. I'm like, yes, you can. One is just a tiny bit more important than the other, and here's how to figure that out, right? Then after a few weeks, we go into create the strategic plan of what are you focusing on for the next 12 months? What are your major themes, personal themes, professional themes, and what are the projects that support that? And then we go through an exercise to figure out, how do you work best? Do you like smaller time chunks? Do you need bigger blocks of time to do certain things? Are you a morning person? Are you a night owl? Or, you know, are you some hybrid combination of the two? It's like, when do you really like to work? And then show you how to time block a calendar in a way that actually makes sense to you and corresponds with the way you work. Because a lot of people will start with, let me just time block the calendar. It's like, no, that's like the last thing you do when you know all this other stuff. So it's all very integrated. And by the end of the class, people have had breakthroughs on, oh, I now realize I do have enough time to do stuff that I consider important. So during this whole exercise, like, I'm not the one telling you this should be important to you, this thing that you have written down. It's like, no, here's the methodology, and you apply it to your life. And, you know, we talk about different ways of tracking your tasks. I have clients who literally will not give up their Post-it notes, and they love them. I'm like, great. So we'll find a system to make that work for you.
Yeah.
And if you're into, you know, having everything on your phone like I am, then there's suggestions on what apps to look at. So I'm definitely not about insisting that you use any particular medium or app. So it's not like, oh, you have to use this app because that's the only way it'll work. It's like, no, these principles work. You use the app that is, or the, you know, if you want to just keep it all handwritten in paper calendar, whatever works for you, you'll get more organized and feel like you've got more of a sense of control of what's going on in your life as a result of this class.
Well, that's pretty powerful stuff, Matilda. It's
It's fun. We have a good time.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just assumed. Well, and we're getting close to wrapping up here. I know you've got a little freebie you want to offer folks, and so I want to give you time to do that. What is this fabulous freebie you got going on?
So this little gift for your tribe is my top 5 tips on email and on Google Calendar. So it's basically like 2 or 3 pages long, and it tells you why I think each one of them is important, and how you benefit if you use them. And then the rest of the document is step-by-step instructions with screen prints on how to set up each one of those tips, either in Gmail or in Google Calendar.
Nice. All right. If Google users out there, this is a great thing to take advantage of. Matilda, do you want to throw a link in there, or do you want me to?
Let's see. Do you have it handy? Okay.
I have Messenger handy.
Hold on.
I always have Messenger handy.
So it is, I'm typing it up so I can put it in there. It's optimizeyourtime.com/black belt bots.
Oh, yeah.
/ all black belt bots, all one word. Hold on, I almost have it.
There we go. Awesome. You did give that to me earlier. I apologize. I did not remember. All right.
And I didn't have it right in these notes.
Well, hit up this expert. I invite you to. She's good people, and she is a trustable human being. Does what she's going to do. And I wouldn't have introduced you to the people if I didn't think so. So yeah, get started. If you've got questions about time management, a good person to ask right here.
Yeah, be happy to take questions.
I'll invite her again on the show in the future. This is something that I can use a refresher on every few months, really. Because I need a refresher. My audience is hostage, I guess, is the technical term for that. But
we could all use a refresher.
Coming on again. Thanks for
having me.
Yeah, it was so great.
Fun.
It's a super fun show. My audience is the best audience.
I know they are.
Well, so fantastic. So next Thursday, I'm going to do a topic on bots. We're going to talk about writing a certain kind of bot, a bot that welcomes people in to your community and qualifies them. I know that I could use a steady stream of qualified people filling up my calendar instead of a steady stream of people filling up my calendar. Trust me, there's a big difference. So we are going to talk about writing bots that qualify people for different things, and it's going to be a great conversation. So do join us, everybody. Same bot time, 1 p.m. Central, same bot channel, this page you're watching right here. And with that, I want to thank everybody for coming today. You guys are the best. And that's it. I will see you all in a bot.
Bye.